Daddy used to paint caterpillars, ants, dragons, polar bears, and that started me off, and I just learnt so much from his drawings. I still have some of them. I can't throw anything away, as you'll see from my studio. He was a what you call a technical drawer, but he was also a very good watercolorist. He was a good draftsman. I was never that, but I seemed to be better with the paint. But he was wonderful at drawing. And as children, myself and my sister Janet, we were brought up in an old farmhouse in Cornwall near Trebarwith. Then my father's job moved up to St Albans near in Hertfordshire, and I went to the secondary school there, no art whatsoever. And then I hated it so much, I said I'll do my A-levels at A-level school, college. And there I met the best teacher ever, called Bob Rayner. I fell in love with him, wanted to run away with him. But he told me I was a really good painter, and that just did so much for me. And he taught me so much. So I was about to go into St Martin's. I got into St Martin's, but I'd done a part-time job in Queen magazine, and I got seduced by getting a pay packet. So I never pursued the career in third level until I got a job in Ireland. And I went to Dunleary then. I was in Queen magazine, and there was this gorgeous photographer called David Cripps, and in the 60s, I mean, he was the guy, one of the guys, said to me, now Cara, if you want to get into this art room, because I used to go into the art room in Queen magazine, and it smelt of cow gum, what they used to use then, you know, and oh, it was wonderful. And I saw them doing all this amazing stuff. He said, oh, you have to go to art school. I was only a lowly little advertisement department person who'd got into St Martin's and didn't go, stupidly. But then Josie said, why are you here? At your age, you're not got any ties. What are you doing here? She said, why aren't you travelling, you know? I said, well, yeah, I better start doing that. And so I went to travel to Ireland on my holidays with my sister, and we had such an amazing time. We hired a Morris Minor. We went to Cork on the Inishfallen, a beautiful old black boat, and I couldn't get over going up the River Lee and seeing Monkstown, the other Monkstown, and Blackrock Castle. I think we came in at dawn, and it was raining, but it didn't matter. It added to the magic. And I couldn't get over the coins with all the animals on it. Oh, I was in love. I mean, just amazing time. So I knew I had to come back to Ireland. So I dragged a friend over. I got a job very quickly because I'd worked in these other places. So I got a job in the Irish Independent, and my friend got a job in the Honey Boutique in Henry Street. I started big, and I've just done a few small ones as we were going into pop-up shops and stuff, because there's lack of space in a gallery, and also people much prefer not to have to pay too much. So I don't call myself an artist, by the way. I don't like that term. I just don't see myself as that grand. I'm just a painter who uses paints. So small, I went small later on, as I say, because I used acrylics then. I do use acrylics. I started off with acrylics, I meant to tell you that, yeah. When I worked in an art shop in, one of my student jobs was to work in the local art shop, and I got a few acrylics there. I do like oil paint, and that would be my favourite expression, other than creating a kind of interiors. And I would spend ages working out what to put on fireplaces. I'm mad about fireplaces. I did an exhibition in Signal called Glow, and it was all different fireplaces. From the fact, what do I like about oil paint? It's the texture. I don't mind that it takes a long time to dry, because it's malleable. And then you can change things, you can overpaint, you can wipe it out, you can get your palette knife at it. There's so many things. So I tend to paint big, because oil paint doesn't really lend itself to smaller, although I have done smaller stuff, you know. It's so sensual, isn't it? It's thick and creamy, and it's, it can get so messy. And You'll see my palette. There's a story behind my palette. Um, it's a real traditional palette. I've got little ones down there as well, but this is a big one. It's in the studio. And just even laying out the colours. I learned how to lay out the colours properly in Dún Laoghaire. We had Brian Maguire, the famous man from Bray, who became head of NCAD. He was one of my teachers, and they taught us how to lay out the palette, the colours going from lights to darks. And my palette is it's a real heirloom. It belonged to Sam Beckett's cousin, Deirdre Hamilton, and she was in our art class when I started teaching in Monkstown Schoolhouse, and she loved it. So she gave me her, when she gave up painting, she said, "You can have my palette," and I'm so proud of it. I just love it, you know. Once a month I used to travel to Mayo. It was a weekend course learning how to be a professional painter, run by John Dynan, who is a very good he was a businessman, and thus he's good at and he's a good teacher, and he's a good painter. So he was a very good person to learn from. I learned the business side of things. When I say learned, I didn't mean to say put them into practice, but have all the notes. And I understood a bit about it, how to market yourself and how vital a good CV is. So when I used that in practice when we did the pop-up shops, friends and I did pop-up shops in Dún Laoghaire. So we had mixed media shows. That's when some of my smaller paintings came into play too. But there's room for big ones as well. But that's when I put into practice my business stuff, because I printed off an awful lot of my artist statement, which we learned, our artist CV, and it did help. Presentation is very important. My cousin, Leo's cousin Noreen, who lives in Carlow, I was talking to her, I needed a studio, and she said, go down to Botanics. They're just outside Carlow. They're moving, and they've got a few that they have to dismantle, and you could get them cheaper because they're second hand. And then gradually I got more and more stuff in it, and it's more room out here. This is my summer bit, you know. Luckily somebody gave me this art. They didn't want it, they hadn't got room for it. This proper artist easel, which I love. I think it's a thing of beauty, you know. And then I keep the table here for my paints and stuff. But today is November, as you know. Is it the 2nd or the 3rd? One of them. Yeah, the 2nd. And so I'll be moving into my winter quarters inside. And I inherited so many bits of furniture from the schoolhouse, including the big wonderful cupboard where I keep all my paints, and this little, and then I have got the easel in there as a school easel from the school. So yeah, it's full of oh yeah, the desk there's from the schoolhouse too, in the desk, and my not this, inside, and I dedicated that to my father, because at the time I hadn't lost my sister, but since now I've lost my sister, so she'll be part of that area as well. Photos of my sister and my father, and my mother too, but she wasn't a painter, but poor mother. The mother was the pianist and the one that knocked the Cornish accent out of me. She was a pianist and an elocution teacher. I mean, when I'm in my chalet, I just relax so much, and I just go into a different place. You know, I feel this is home. Yeah. I think the advice I'd like to give is, and this is something I am not good at, but I try to be good at. You should always have a drawing book in your rucksack or your bag, always, for maybe a painting or just to write things, you know, something that would grab you, and just open your eyes and start looking as an artist. So many people miss so much because they don't have their eyes open. And there's so many, I mean, just looking above shop level in the towns, and you see the original buildings the way they were. Little things you notice, light, shadows, things like that, yeah. Keep your eyes open. I'm painting Madame George at the moment, and by putting it on an easel, it's a bit of advice for people, and this is something John Dynan said, I haven't taken that out for a year, and I wanted to take it up to the RHA next year, and I can see what's wrong with it. You see, I can see that the legs aren't long enough. You need to take a painting out and put it in your living room, or stare at it for ages so that you can see what's wrong with it. Because you do, if you're painting on it, you're too close to it and you can't see what's wrong. And another thing is, get another critique. I can't think of what to say, what not to do. Basically, not to try and be original. You know, of course, it's okay to copy when you want to do an exercise. In fact, one does do that sort of thing. Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to paint. I shouldn't say that. I think it's quite definitely true that you shouldn't paint just to try and please a market. You know, I wouldn't do that. If somebody particularly liked something, unless it was lighthouses, I like doing lighthouses. If somebody wanted garden flowers, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do it just to try and get a sale, you know. I try to be true to myself like that. Oh, well, yeah. I'd like to have another exhibition in Signal. And I had one in 2010, I think it was. And it was called Glow. And another goal is to help my grandchildren. I have grandchildren, and one of them in particular, well, she's the eldest, she's 6 now. She's showing great, I can see she's got just great colour sense, you know. And I just think Signal's been extremely good to me. They've always been so obliging with the exhibitions I've had there. I did a photography exhibition with Jimmy, a Jimmy guy, I've forgotten his surname, about stones. We did photos. I did stones and he did Bray stones, we called it. Yeah, you'll find it in the archives. And I did another exhibition with a friend called Anita. I've always found that people in Signal, they do so much for you compared to the pop-up shop. We had to do all our own hanging and all that. In Signal, they help you so much, and I'm so glad that I've kept my membership, and I'm still a member there, because it was wonderful. It's a wonderful initiative, and it needs to get the funding it deserves.